You know, I've got your back. I don't know what that means to you. You know, it's a colloquial phrase right now that you hear it all over the place. Movies, books, music, in conversation. Hey, I've got your back. I got your back, I really do. Meaning I care for you. You matter to me. And I want to take care of you. I want to be there for you. You know, it's used often, and in a wedding, I heard a groomsman say it to the groom. And he said, you know, and he was kind of choked up. I've always known that Matt had my back. He was there for me in times of good times and in times of vulnerability. And I knew I wouldn't fall. And that's basically what it means. You know, it was developed maybe in the swordsman's days when they stood back to fight against opponents. But we know in World War II, when the soldiers would go into battle, and they'd go into a room, and their back was exposed, and somebody would be behind them and say, buddy, I have your back. You don't need to worry. I've got you. We need to think about that, because who's got your back? And whose back do you watch? Because that's what true friendship is about. Now, we need a little caveat there. We start out with God's got your back. That's a little bit different. As human beings, we're perfectly imperfect. We have our strengths and our weaknesses, which means we do need each other. But we have to remember that, you know, it's an up and down. It's an up and down experience. So a lot of understanding is involved in all of that too. One of the problems is right now, it makes me sad even to talk about this when I read about it, is that loneliness is an epidemic in the United States. I read today, loneliness is more widespread today than any other major illness in the United States. Loneliness is preventable. It doesn't have to be a major illness. We can do something about it in our own way. It says sustained feelings of loneliness create anxiety and depression. And we certainly know that the suicide rate is substantially up, especially in younger people. Mother Teresa dedicated her life to helping those who are abandoned and lonely. She helped so many. Elizabeth, maybe you could come close. I can't talk any louder than this. Nobody can hear me? Okay, all right. Maybe you need to come a little closer, sweetie, because I can't do that. But I'll try, because I got your back. I'll do it. I'll try. Mother Teresa said the most terrible poverty there is in the world is loneliness and not feeling loved. It is the worst disease that any human being can experience. We can do something about that, and that's a little bit about what I'm talking about today. There's also an epidemic of fear in this world. It's gripped a lot of people. In fact, fear runs many people's lives. Now, there's two kinds of fear. There's the instinctual fear that tells us if something's dangerous or keeps us safe. But there's also the fear that is irrational, and it comes from a lack of understanding. And that kind of fear changes our life. It makes us afraid of people and things. It puts us against each other because we don't understand. Ernest Holmes said, fear is the great enemy of humanity. It devitalizes us physically, mentally, and emotionally. Fear comes from ignorance, and it is the parent of anger and hatred. So, what do we do about loneliness and fear? Well, I say we expand our faith. Because this journey of spiritual awakening that we are all on, we all have one goal, one main goal, and that's to find our true center. Because in that center, we find love, we find faith, we find goodness right there, that true center. Here's another quote that I absolutely loved. I heard Rumi do one of these same types of things, but it comes from Ernest Holmes' book called The Philosophy of Jesus, and it says, there is a divine person within each of us, which, in a sense, has one hand in the hand of God and the other stretched out to humanity. I say that a lot. This goes on a little further. It says, the one who finds God in themselves will discover God in others. But if we notice, the place where those two hands meet is right here, and that's our center. We must make sure our heart is clear. If we have someone else's back, it requires empathy and understanding. And empathy isn't the same as sympathy. Oh, I feel so sorry for you. I wouldn't want to be in your place. It comes from a place where we can actually step in someone else's shoes and say, wow, I feel what you're feeling. I understand. And it needs that. So we need that place in our heart that's open and free. Mother Teresa said, in silence of the heart is where God speaks. And she went on to say, forgiveness precedes silence. There can be no real silence in our heart if we're holding on to a lack of forgiveness, upset, anger. We have to clear ourselves and be open so we can keep the channel flowing, that the inspiration, the creativity, the understanding, whatever it is we are receiving from Spirit can move through us. These hands are pretty important. You know, Dionne Warwick had a song, reach out and touch somebody's hand and make this world a better place, if you can. I found a story I wanted to share today. And I thought it was a good story for I've Got Your Back. We are equipped with the tools to help ourselves and each other right now. An old man sat feebly on a park bench. He didn't move. He just sat with his head staring down at his hands. When a fellow sat down beside him, he asked if he was okay. And he raised his head and looked at the man and said, "Yes, I'm fine, thank you for asking," in his clear, strong voice. Have you ever looked at your hands? I mean, really looked at your hands? And the guy said, well, I looked at my hands and turned them over, and I thought, no, I haven't really looked. And he went on with this story. Stop and think a moment about the hands you have and how they've served you throughout the years. These hands, though wrinkled and weak, have been the tools I've used all my life to reach out and embrace life. They caught my fall when I was a toddler. They put food in my mouth and clothes on my back. As a child, my mother taught me how to fold them in prayer. They tied my shoes, pulled on my boots, and dried the tears of my children and caressed the love of my life. They held my rifle and wiped my tears when I went off to war. They have been dirty, scraped, raw, swollen, and bent. They were uneasy and clumsy when I first held my newborn son. Decorated with my wedding band, they have showed the world that I am married and I love someone very special. They wrote the letters home, and they trembled and shook when I buried my parents and my spouse and walked my daughter down the aisle. Yet they were strong and sure when I dug my buddy out of a foxhole and lifted a plow off my best friend's foot. They have held children and consoled neighbors. They shook, and my fists have shook in anger when I didn't understand. To this day, when not much of anything else of me works real well, these hands hold me up. they lay me down. And they continue to fold in prayer. These hands are the mark of where I've been and the ruggedness of my life. But more importantly, it is these hands that share the heart of God and live my thoughts of God. God doesn't care what these hands have done or where they've been. They're just a gift to me that I may learn and grow and love and share. The fellow sat there and he thought, wow, I would doubt I will ever look at my hands in the same way again. He said, I never saw the old man again after we left the park that day, but I will never forget him and the words he spoke. I realize my hands have the power to share the love, the power, and the creativity of God in action. That's what they're made for. How are you using your hands? This story reminded me of what Maya Angelou said. People will forget what you say. They will forget what you did. But they'll never forget how you made them feel. And that's what we need to focus on. You know, the little things we do, the little tiny things we can do can tell people we have their back. But I think in order for us to really do that in a beautiful way, we've got to clear our hearts and minds. And we have to learn and expand our faith and have a new outlook on life. It's interesting because we talk about I talked about true friendship. You know, you've got somebody's back. You'll take care of them. You'll love them in the good and the bad and all of the rest. But our biggest and greatest friendship is with Spirit within. And again, Ernest Holmes has a chapter in his book called Your Spiritual Power, called The Friend That Is Within You. And he talks about this friend that's closer than our shadow. It is the animating principle of our life that's always working for us. It's always there. It's working our eternal guide, our high counselor. It is never affected by anything in the past. It doesn't hold on to negativity. It doesn't hold on to lack. It doesn't hold on to fear. It just knows the truth, and it's always there. It's there for us. How can you and I tap into that power so it can be there, that we can feel in our mind's eye and our hearts that we have our hands outstretched, that we can do our work together? We are much more powerful when we're united in a team. This friend inside knows that we are all connected, that there's unity in the world. We're all different. We're all a bit crazy and imperfect and all that stuff too. But we're all part of each other. And when we bring ourselves together in that connection, we can create something wonderful. So I want you to just, in your own mind now, just close your eyes for just a moment. And I want you to feel that beautiful, invisible hand on your back. It could be two hands. It could be an embrace that's simply telling you in this moment that God's got my back. No matter what's going on, there's something more. We may not see it, but that knowing in us knows there's always something bigger and greater going on right here and right now. And as you feel that, knowing we're not alone, knowing that right where we are, no matter how many people or no people or where we are, that we've always got someone there supporting us. And then as you feel that and let that, just that knowing, that comfort, that warm, liquid, light, liquid love fill your body, think in this moment, whose back do you have? And how can you share that right here and right now? To make this Thanksgiving week truly a one of thankfulness and joy and wonder, it's about receiving and sharing that goodness and love that's ever present. So just breathe that in and let that percolate within you. Just let it percolate within you, that it's already there. We just need to be aware of it. The universe always has our back. Life is always for us and never against us. There are not two powers, a power for evil and a power for good. There's one power, and we choose how to use it. And we use it in thankfulness and joy and goodness. We can make this world a better place right now. It was... I don't remember who said, there's no reason, I think it was Anne Frank, I'm not sure, that there's nothing that's stopping us from in this moment, from changing the world right now, by just opening our hearts and minds to something better. Now, when I started today and I said, I've got your back, I'd like to explain a little bit more about that. Many of you, in just some hearing, have heard that we had some challenge with our landlords about 4 months ago. They threw us a curveball and shook us up. We didn't really know where it came from or what was going on. It's not something that was meant to be shared at the time because there was nothing clear about it. It was all goofy and crazy, and for 4 months, I've been here because what's the most important thing is that we keep our community together, that we're here. So I'm here, and I have your back, and believe me, our board of trustees has my back and your back. Work diligently with meetings, taking care of things, trying to find out what's the truth in all of this, what's really going on. A lot of confusion, a lack of clarity, and not understanding. And one of our past congregants who's moved out of the area was so delightful to help us with all of this. She's a mediator, a lawyer, a mediator, and helped us make some sense of these things. Even while Kirk and I were in Kauai, we were on the phone with from Florida to California to Hawaii, trying to get the times there, making things right. So things have settled down, and I want to share that with you. I feel this is the first time my heart is clear enough to share that we are extending the extension of our lease that we have always had, and we're extending that for just our 3% increases as usual, and we're staying here right now. So that's where we are. And I'm sorry if it's caused confusion for any people, because I know things go around, but it just wasn't a time to say anything. I finally feel my heart is clear enough to talk about that and say it. And who knows what the future is going to bring. But that's just what we're knowing now, and prayer works, and I'll tell you, our practitioners and ministers, if anybody wants to talk, they were prepared on many different Zoom calls to have conversations with us, with the community, for whatever happened, and they were there, and our board was certainly prepared and ready to do that too. So I want you all to know right here at InSpirit, Center for Spiritual Living, you've got people that have your back, always. You can call anybody, you can be there. People are there for each other, and that's truly what makes this particular group so special. We know we've got each other's back. So I'm going into this Thanksgiving week very, 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 very thankful. I don't have to worry about this stuff anymore, so let's just say thank you, God.